A common struggle that I see with level 1 students is knowing the difference between parametric VaR and non-parametric VaR. So we're going to take a few seconds to talk about the differences, and then we're going to look at some examples of non-parametric VaR. With parametric VaR, we're making an assumption about the return distribution. Generally, that assumption is that those returns follow a normal or Gaussian distribution. With non-parametric VaR, we're making no assumptions about the underlying return distribution. Instead, what we're doing is we're looking at historical data to see what the return distribution actually looked like. Here we have an example of a historical simulation of VaR. So in this particular case, we're given 300 different returns, and to find our 99% VaR, we've ranked them from worst returns to best returns, and then we find our cutoff point based on our VaR level. And so in this situation, we make no assumptions about the underlying distribution, right? We're just looking at historical returns, and that makes historical simulation of VaR non-parametric. Another scenario that you've probably heard about is stressed VaR. And stressed VaR is where we look at historical returns and we take the returns from a period of market stress and we use them to stress test our model. And thus, we make no assumptions about the underlying distribution. We just simply take returns from that period of market stress, and thus stressed VaR is a form of non-parametric VaR because we're not assuming anything about the distribution. The next type of VaR we should talk about is our Monte Carlo full revaluation. And so what we're doing here is we're starting with our present value of our portfolio, and we're shocking that portfolio based on thousands of different market scenarios that could occur. So the example I like to use here is think about playing The Sims, how every decision you make could guide you down a different path. And so with the Monte Carlo model, we're fully repricing the portfolio under each scenario. And so here we're making no assumptions about the underlying distribution, right? We're just shocking the portfolio, and that makes this a non-parametric model. So as we talked about, parametric VaR relies on an assumed distribution, usually the normal. So one quick way to spot a parametric model is by looking and seeing if we have this little term right here, our Z alpha. The moment we introduce a Z-score, we're assuming that the returns follow a specific probability distribution. And that's because the Z alpha here only exists if we can map our confidence level to a point on our curve. And once we pair that point with our estimated standard deviation, we're saying we can describe risk using the shape and spread of this assumed distribution. That is a parametric model.